Gus, what's up, man? Thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your story.
What's up, Alex? My man, how are you doing?
Doing awesome, man. It's great to have you here. Can you tell me a bit about your experience with retroactive jealousy and how it impacted your life and your relationships?
Wow. Well, I'm 51 years old and I've suffered with this for a very long time. So, the earliest that I can remember was probably 19 that I can remember from my first real relationship. So, of course, I had no idea what it was. I just thought I was just, a weird kid and which I probably was, but it was really obviously very difficult, but I figured that everybody probably was going through what I went through. And then as I was going on with life and getting in different relationships, I realized, wow, this is like still the same. I still have the same issues, whether it was from 19 years old into my late 20s, my 30s, all the way up until married life. And like I said, I'm 51. So it's been a long journey, but thanks to you, I have to tell you, you've really helped me overcome this.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what your symptoms were like? The OCD component and stuff like that.
Very weird, very strange, which I guess everybody probably thinks that their symptoms are crazy and strange and weird, and they are. But I think we all think that our symptoms are the worst and like nobody would understand. So, how to describe them, how to describe the RJ, and with me was just I had very difficult times, whether, like I said, no matter which relationship I was in, I would always target one particular ex boyfriend of theirs and just hone in on it. And it was sabotaging myself, sabotaging the relationships. Like I said, even into my marriage. So, how to describe it was very debilitating. I mean, it got to the point where didn't want to move, couldn't talk, just was zoned out. This has happened many times in all of these years. And then thankfully I found you and reached out to you. And I found others. I never reached out to them as far as the RJ goes. I never reached out to them, period. I did go to therapy, but I found you, listening to you, and just happy I called you.
So what were some of your fears that you had before, pulling the trigger and getting started to work with me?
I don't think it was fears. It was just not no belief, because I've been to therapy many times in my life, whether it was from, relationships with this RJ, which nobody seemed to be able to figure out. So there was no fears. It was just, I don't like wasting time. Right. And I figured, this is going to be another waste of time, but, I have to do it. I have to figure this out. So when I found you and I spoke, I just didn't really have much hope, but I figured, you know what, at least I have to try it. And I'm glad I did.
What was your experience like working with me and using the resources in my courses?
Alex, I, I talk about you all the time because really you've changed my life. You really have. I'd be lying to you if I said, in the first 4 or 5 times I was, instantly better. That wasn't the case. But I said, hey, you know what? I signed up for this. Let me do what this guy says. When I'm doing what you said, I started to notice little bit of a difference. I noticed that going from basically 100%, I mean 100% of thinking about this every day, even if I don't have an outburst, going from 100%, it was slowly reducing, not majorly, but it was slowly reducing, and I was happy with that. I couldn't believe it, but I thought that's probably going to be as far as it goes. And the more and more I kept talking to you, and do you want me to talk about the minerals now or no?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, you were giving me, we did the hair sample test and did all that stuff, gave me the minerals to try, which I had no belief in that at all. But again, I was all in. I was just going to try it because I wanted to basically prove to you that, hey, I'm different. I'm different than everybody else. You're not going to be able to get me, not going to be able to fix me. So I was taking the minerals. Again, I didn't notice a difference instantly. I was doing some of the other things like the meditation, which I had no, I never tried that before. And in the beginning, that was very difficult, hard to concentrate and hard to really stick with it. But I said, you know what? I was feeling that difference. Let me just keep trying what Alex is telling me. So through the minerals, through the meditation, let's stop there. Probably the minerals first, I would say, is what really I started to feel like, okay, this is working. Like, what's this side guy Alex doing? He's got some hocus pocus going on. But it was working little by little. But I was like, the meditation's not going to work. You started talking to me more about the meditation, and you brought up straight line. You said, you'll get to a point where you start to feel like things going on, in your head. You start to feel like straight lines. That's how you described it to me. It's like, what's this guy talking about? Probably like many of you are thinking, what's this guy talking about? So the more I kept meditating and the deeper I was getting into meditation, I actually started to feel those straight lines. And that really shocked me. And then I noticed myself catching myself saying, wow, I haven't really thought about this RJ that much. I was still thinking about it, but not 100%. I couldn't give you a number at that point, but it reduced majorly. The more I kept speaking with you, taking your advice, doing the homework you would give me, obviously staying on the minerals, doing the meditation, I can tell you now that from that 100%, I'm now at, I would say, a 5%. And there's no way you could have ever convinced me that I would go that to a 5%. And we're still fairly new at this. I mean, we haven't been doing this all that long. Alex, you're a miracle worker because I have to tell you, I'm not, I know everybody has their own issues. Everybody has their own degrees of what they go through and how they take it. But I can tell you from dealing from this for many, many years, like I said, the earliest age I can remember of 19 with the actual RJ, and now at 51, continuously, what from relationship to relationship to relationship, how I feel now is I would never imagine feeling this way.
Incredible, man. I'm so happy for you. And you have no
Well,
doubt that you're going to get from that five to the zero, right? It's going to continue to shrink, right?
Alex, I'm saying five. It's really not, I probably not even at a five right now, but it's still there. I mean, sometimes when I'm taking the minerals, I'm saying, okay, well, I'm taking this because of that. But, so that's probably the 5% maybe. But this was in my head every second of the day, from when I went to bed at night to when I woke up in the morning and the whole day and night throughout. So for many years, most of my life, it's all thanks to you. It really is. I mean, I just didn't believe in any kind of therapy at all because I've been to many therapists in my life. I don't know how many, but a lot. Nothing has ever worked. Again, I didn't go. Nobody knew what I was talking about. They're like, "What? What? I don't know. What? That doesn't make any." It didn't make sense even to therapists. Even they didn't understand. But like I said, thankfully I met you. Again, I didn't. No offense to you, I didn't have really much belief in it. But now I'm all in. I am all in. You saved me.
So you would say that it was the comprehensive approach with the lifestyle and some of these exercises to stabilize your mind and nervous system and the mineral balancing that made a huge difference.
Alex, I don't know. I'd have to say, I guess so, right? Because more than half of my life, nothing has, I mean, this has been a constant in my head. So it has to be. What else could it be? Talking to you, these minerals, the mineral balancing, and just the homework that you've given me. The only thing that's coming to my mind right now is the meditation off the top of my head, but just the little homework exercises you've given me or watching your videos on your page. Yeah, it's still hard for me to believe. I mean, it's really hard for me to believe, but I'm living proof that you're the man.
So tell us more about how your life has changed and how your relationships have changed with all this healing that you've done in less than a year.
Well, good question. It's kind of easy. I mean, I don't fight. I don't bring up anything from the past, and I'm not bringing that stuff up because it's just not building up inside. I was like a ticking time bomb. I could go 2 years without bringing it up, without having an argument, but it was building every day, every second of the day, every second of the day. And then finally, boom, I'd explode. And I have nothing. I don't have any of that building up. Like I said, I mean, is it still there? Yeah, I guess it is. Like I said, that 5%, but going from 100%, that's a big difference. And like I said, we haven't been doing this long. So how has it changed my life, my relationship? It's done miracles. Like I said, I don't have that tension. I don't have that animosity, and which leads to arguments. I don't have that.
If you could go back in time knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
Find Alex Longquist. Where is he? Where is he? He's the miracle worker. If I could listen, yeah, but it's funny, but it's the truth. If I and what's really funny is before hearing about you, I was like, what is this problem? Like, what is this problem that I have? And back when I was 19, you didn't have the internet to look anything up, and so-called experts had no idea what this was. So I started just typing in different things, and I started hearing about retroactive jealousy, and I was just like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. I'll just fix myself, even though that's never worked. But I never called anybody else. Finally, when my back was up against the wall and I was like, you popped up, and I said, let me just give this guy a call and let me see. And I think that I think that that was meant to be. I don't think I was meant to call anybody else except for you. I don't know how to explain it, but if I could go back in time, I just wish I would have talked to you sooner or met you sooner, because you've changed my life.
Is there anything you'd like to say to somebody else who might be struggling with RJ or OCD, similarly to how you were, but is feeling nervous about starting or is feeling out of hope?
Well, like I said, I was never nervous about anything, but I was totally hopeless. I didn't think there, I had no hope, zero hope. And I also felt like when I was talking to, whether it was therapists or whether it was friends of mine or family, and people who you're supposed to, and I did do trust to tell like my situation, and they look at me like, man, what's wrong with you? Right. And what, nobody understood. So if you're out there and you feel like, hey, totally misunderstood, or what you're thinking or what you're feeling is crazy, I was right there with you. Nothing to be nervous about. Alex is a great man. And again, I was hopeless. I was totally, it's not going to work, but I have to give it a try. It was that, or get divorced, or just live a miserable life for the rest of my life. So I gave it a shot. I had zero hope, but Alex totally changed my life.
I appreciate you so much, man. You've done a great
I
job with
appreciate
all this
you. I
work.
appreciate you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a pleasure working with you, man, and I'm super excited for your future and continuing to work on yourself. And thank you so much for sharing your story because I think it's going to mean a lot to a lot of people struggling with this. So thank you so much.
Hey, listen, I hope that they just can pull the trigger, call you, and get started. Because, and listen, don't expect the magic bullet like in 3 or 4 sessions, but it's not that long either. It's you do start to feel the changes, and you listen to Alex, do what he tells you to do, and change my life, and I hope it changes yours.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you big time.
You got
Thanks.
it, man.